Greetings, fellow practitioners of the dark cyber arts. We give praise to Gordon Moore for his revelation of the divine Moore's law. Hey, I'm the Buzo Techie again, which, I hope you know, um, or you can't read, I guess. This is episode 4 of the RSS Aggregator series. In this episode, I document how I add multi-RSS source. This is in this episode I document how I add multi-RSS source support. Try saying that 5 times, which enables the user to manage multiple RSS source links and causes a generated feed to get the articles from multiple RSS links, not just one link like the MVP did. I also added a CLI to help with managing the multiple RSS sources and testing. Here's how it looks. I start the app, which starts the CLI, and the CLI takes in commands and arguments. So the help command tells me the different commands that the app supports. I enter in the list source command, which lists all the RSS link sources that the user has saved to the program. And when the RSS feed is generated by the app, it derives the articles from these sources. Using the add source command with a link argument, I can add more RSS link sources. The generate feed command generates the feed and displays it to standard output without sending the feed as an email to all of the emails in the address book. This was useful for testing for me. And the gen feed command, in this case, produced an exception because one of the RSS sources responded when we made a request to the link, responded with an XML. Responded with something that wasn't an RSS XML, but instead of crashing, we just display the exception information and skip it. Remove source removes the link. So as you saw, this video is too fast for me, but for my overlay recording, we saw we removed the link that we didn't like. And then we can use send all to generate the feed and send it to all the emails in the address book instead of waiting for the cron job to trigger creating the gen feed and sending it to the emails. And of course, so far we only have one email in the address book because we are lonely. I mean, no, not because we are lonely. Well, okay, maybe we are lonely. Who's we? But because we haven't added support for multiple emails. Anywho, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Cue intro. Okay, so the goal was to add functionality that enabled the user to, one, add and remove RSS source links from some set. Two, to utilize that set of RSS source links to create a selection of articles when generating a feed, which could be sent to the email stored in the address book. 3, the selection of articles that's created should be created in a manner where the articles are taken from the sources in a fair and distributed manner while not overloading the amount of articles in the feed. So what I mean by fair and distributed manner is that every source, RSS source, should have the opportunity to have articles from it to be added to the feed. The reason for this is because I believe that a user of this tool will probably want their articles from the different sources that they added. If a user added 10 sources and most of their articles every time they run the app comes from 1 or 2 sources, then I don't think they would be very satisfied. With that said though, trying to do in a manner where you get articles from trying to do in this manner could lead to the risk of having too many articles on the feed And so the goal, another requirement, is to prevent that. One, I'm pretty sure there is a data limit to emails, so we don't want to send so much data over email. And two, I just don't think the user would like super long feeds in the first place, and it probably takes up space in their email as well, makes it clunky. So yeah, so the current diagram right now is showing the flow for the add source feature. So really how it works is the user interacts with the CLI and does the add source command. The add source command takes in the RSS source link, and this data is sent to the articles module through the function call. And what the article module does is essentially takes this RSS source link and creates a RSS source object, and it serializes and writes that RSS source object into the RSS source file, which is what we're using as our persistent storage for the set of sources. The RSS source file in our case is a CSV, which seems like kind of the simplest way to meet this requirement. And then removing source is somewhat similar. So anytime we write sources to the source file, the sources are indexed starting from 0. So to remove source, essentially the user using the CLI would write remove source using the function called index is given to the articles module, and the article module then essentially just removes the line with the index from the source file, and then just re-indexes all the other sources in the file. So if removed like index 3 and there's 5 sources, then it will go from 0 1 2 3 4 to 0 1 2 3 because you removed index 3, but the index 4 becomes index 3, but that source article is gone. So the updated generate feed flow looks something like this. So the user will use the CLI to send the gen feed command to the articles module, and this is really just a function call. The articles module reads the RSS sources info from the RSS source file and deserializes it into some set. Generate the feed. The articles module will extract articles from each source through web request and parsing, as we've been doing before, in the set in a manner that guarantees that every source will have a chance for its articles to be in the feed. The feed that it generates is sent to the CLI and is outputted to standard output. But of course, the feed could also have been sent to the email module, and the email module would just send the feed as an email to the emails in the address book. So to begin implementing the design, I began by iterating on the generate feed flow. Here, I'm defining the article source class, which represents the RSS sources. The class consists of an RSS link and index. Then I modify the articles module constructor to take in the path to the RSS source file, which is where I store the RSS sources. Here, I'm implementing the load articles source file function. Using the path that's stored by the constructor, the function reads the article source file line by line. Since the file is a CSV with an index and a RSS link for each row, the function splits the line relative to a common delimiter, then constructs an article source object with the values. The function then adds the article source object into an array list. After it's done this for each CSV line in the article source file, it returns the array list. Then I modified the getFeed function to derive articles from the different sources stored in the RSS source file in a manner that guarantees that all sources will have a chance to have its articles in the feed. The function first gets the source list from the load articles source file function. Then it shuffles the list of sources. For each source, the function derives articles from the source via the make RSS feed request and parse RSS feed functions, and adds all the derived articles into a feed pool list. But we break if the feed pool size passes a certain threshold. This is to prevent memory exhaustion in the case of many sources. We then shuffle the articles in the feed pool and get the sublist of articles starting from 0 to the desired article counts. Finally, the function returns a string listing the articles, which includes their names and links to the articles. I then remodify the constructor to initialize the member variables, number of articles in feed, and max size of feed pool via constructor arguments. To test the multi-source generate RSS feed feature, I made an RSS source file with 4 RSS links. When I ran the code, one of the links, the dev.to link, after requests had been made on it for its RSS feed, responded with a 403 HTTP error, which caused the code to crash. This was due to the fact that I made the make RSS feed request function throw an unhandled exception for a non-200 HTTP response. To fix this, I made the caller function getFeed handle this exception by skipping the link, printing out an error message for the user, and then continuing to process the other links. I'd argue this is a more useful behavior for a potential user of this software rather than it just crashing. After that, I ran into a quick array list casting bug mix-up, but I handled that. After fixing those bugs though, when I tried to test the multi-source generate feed feature again, I ran into a new issue. For some reason, only articles from the HackerNoon RSS source were in the generated feed. There were no articles from the other RSS sources that were in the generated feed. Almost exactly the opposite of what I wanted! The problem ended up being that the other 3 RSS sources that I added just all happened to make use of a different type of RSS format called Atom. Atom and traditional RSS are both XML formats for describing a feed, but they use different tags, so my strictly traditional RSS parser could not parse any Atom RSS feeds and thus would drop the articles. To fix this issue, I made a type parser, which parses an XML string and determines the type of RSS feed the XML string is supposed to be, traditional RSS or Atom RSS. I also made an Atom parser that can properly parse Atom RSS XML strings. Thus, the solution is that the RSS XML will get parsed by the type parser, which will determine if the XML string is a traditional RSS or an Atom RSS. Based on that result, the XML string is directed to either the traditional RSS parser that has always been there or the newly added Atom parser. Side note, both the traditional parser and the Atom parser parses the articles from the feed into the same article object. Thus, the program no longer needs to care about the difference between traditional RSS and Atom RSS after it has parsed the feed. I then tried the generate feed with multi-sources functionality again, and Lord and behold, the articles of the 5th dimension were adorned upon my terminal. As you can see, the generated RSS feed has articles from the different sources that I added to the source file, even our troubling dev.to source, which started working for me when I set the HTTP user agent header value to Mozilla mozzarella something something. I don't know. It always looks like mozzarella, but it's Mozilla. Anyway, set it to Mozilla form. I don't know what I'm. Ignore my null pointer accession brain fart. But yeah, we set it to Mozilla 4.0, and just as before, I'm able to click on the links of these articles to access the actual articles. Next, I decided to make a CLI for the app. I figured the CLI would be a good way to enable a user of the app to add and remove RSS sources that they want their generated feeds to be based off of. I also believe that the CLI would be useful for testing. The CLI is just a basic one. It runs an infinite loop, and at the beginning of the loop it asks for user input. After the user enters input, the CLI tries to match the input to a supported command, and if it finds a match, it will execute the functionality that's associated with that command. And if not, it will yell at you. Two commands I added first are the help command, which shows a description of all available commands in the program, and the quit command, which allows the user to quit out of the program. The next command I add is the list source command, which lists all the RSS sources that are stored in the RSS source file with their indexes. This aids the user in seeing which RSS sources that he has, adding RSS sources, and removing RSS sources. Okay, so I just finished implementing list sources, so let's give it a test. We have the prompt. The prompt shows up again. If we forget the list sources command, we put help. We see to list the sources is lssrc. Click that, and it lists our sources. So the zeroth source, or at least their index. So 0 is Hacker News, 1 is Experienced Devs, 2 Martin Fowler, 3 dev.2o. So, yep. Later, I began working on the add source command. This command, when used by a user, is meant to be followed by a link argument, which links to an RSS feed. This link is to be added to the RSS source file by the execution of the add source command. Thus, anytime the program generates an RSS feed, it will include articles from the added source as well as the other sources that were already there into the generated feed. The way the add source command works is that the program deserializes sources from the RSS file as a list of sources. Then it creates a new source from the RSS link argument that was passed to it. Then it sets the new sources objects index to the size of the list of the sources that was deserialized previously. And then it adds this new source into the list of source objects. And then finally, the program serializes this new list of source objects and overwrites the previous RSS source file with the new serialized data. I then implement the remove source command, which takes in an index as an argument and removes the RSS source from the RSS source file that has that index. The remaining sources in the RSS source file are then re-indexed. I then wire the generate feed function from the articles module to a CLI command called generate feed. This command generates a feed based on the sources in the RSS source file and prints the feed to standard output rather than sending the feed via email. Okay, so we added some new functionalities: add source, remove source, generate feed, so we can see a sample of, so we can get an idea of how the feed would look like if we generate it. So let's run through it. Let me show you how the application works right now. So we started. First, let's see what our current sources are. Oops, I guess that was not. Oh yeah, okay. I need 2 S's. So these are our current sources. Let's add sources. So we can add this one. 7, that's not bad. Add this one. Okay. And so we add them, and then when we list them, I'm trying to remember my commands. Send all. And send all should send the email of an RSS feed. Should generate a feed and send the email to everybody in the address book. So far, it's just one person. So then if we want to see over here, we can see we just got something. We just got it right now, 0 minutes ago. And we have different articles, including the new sources that we added, like Free Text Zone and D-Zone feed. And it's like, okay, well, this article seems interesting. Let me click on it and see what's up. Oh my gosh, stuff, colors, yeah. So that does that. Go back. Okay. Replit. Replit. I hear about that a lot in some podcasts. Coding too, but yeah.